Hey everyone, this is Ari from Literary Gladiators. How you guys doing? So, I've recently been reading the complete works of Brothers Grimm. I got the copy of this book at Barnes & Noble. It's a special Barnes & Noble packaging and a special Barnes & Noble cover and everything. And I decided I'd make a series of individual videos looking at my favorite Brothers Grimm stories. Now, I didn't want to do any usual ones like Hansel and Gretel or Snow White or whatever, because those are ones that everyone knows about. So I decided I wanted to do some Grimm stories that not a lot of people know about. So this is more like the lesser known stories of Grimm series. That's what I'm going to call it. It's called the lesser known stories of Grimm. And today's story is called The Shepherd Boy. Now, anyone who has watched Doctor Who would know what this story is about, because it's at the end of the episode Heaven Sent. The Doctor quotes almost the entire third of the story, and I actually started reading. I read the whole short story afterwards, and I thought it was really good. So I'm going to read the story real quick for you guys. The Shepherd Boy. There was once on a time a shepherd boy whose fame spread far and wide because of the wise answers which he gave to every question. The king of the country heard of it likewise, but did not believe it, and sent for the boy. Then he said to him, "If thou canst give me an answer to 3 questions which I will ask thee, I will look on thee as my own child, and thou shalt dwell with me in the royal palace." The boy said, "What are the 3 questions?" The king said, "The first is, how many drops of water are there in the ocean?" The shepherd boy answered, "Lord King, if you will have all the rivers on earth dammed up, so that not a single drop runs from them into the sea, until I have counted it, I will tell you how many drops there are in the sea." The king said, "The next question is, how many stars are in the sky?" The shepherd boy said, "Give me a great sheet of white paper." And then he made so many fine points on it with a pen that could scarcely be seen, and it was all but impossible to count them. Anyone who looked at them would have lost the sight. Then he said, "There are as many stars in the sky as there are points on this paper. Just count them." But nobody was able to do it. The king said, "The third question is, how many seconds of time are there in eternity?" Then said the shepherd boy, "In Lower Pomerania there is a diamond mountain, which is 2 miles and a half high, 2 miles and a half wide, and 2 miles and a half in depth. Every 100 years a little bird comes and sharpens its beak on it, and when the whole mountain is worn away by this, then the first second of eternity will be over." The king says, "Thou hast answered the 3 questions like a wise man, and shall henceforth dwell with me in my royal palace, and I will regard thee as my own child." So that is the story, The Shepherd Boy. It's a very interesting story because it's answering questions in such a way where it's like you have to think about it, but you don't have to think about it. I'll start with the first question. How many drops are in the ocean? If you have all the rivers on earth dammed up so not a single drop runs them into the sea, I will tell you how many drops there are in the sea. That's a very wise answer, because it's basically saying that something is greater than it's very speculative, it's very subjective, and that one person who thinks something is greater is going to say that the other might not say the same thing. I think that the shepherd boy actually is supposed to represent that kind of subjectivity in general, that like everyone has a different view on something. And I think that goes with the other 2 questions too, about the stars and with time. I think that, like, for instance, I could think that time is, 5 minutes could feel like an eternity, while when I'm doing something else like making music, 5 minutes is nothing to me. So it's very different between the 2. So with how many drops there are in the sea, a fisherman might think that the sea is very big, and we on the land might think it's smaller because we actually don't go out into the sea. We just stay on the beach. So it's pretty subjective, and it's interesting. The second question is also interesting. How many stars are in the sky? And then the boy just takes a piece of paper and he takes the pen and he puts as many dots as he can on the piece of paper, and like no one is gonna have the time to sit down and count them. So at this point, just to make the question easier, we can just assume that the answer is a lot, because the king and nobody else is able to count how many points are on that paper. Don't have the. If you were to count them, how long would it take? So it's a very interesting point there. But of course, the question I wanted to focus on the most, and the one that popped up in Doctor Who, and the one that is the most interesting, is about the bird sharpening his beak on the mountain in Lower Pomerania. I think this is extremely interesting, and it's actually kind of sad if you think about it. How time is just this malleable thing, and like not even going into Doctor Who, and just in general, time, like I said, it could be longer, it can be shorter, but the way he words it is that once everything that could take a very long time happens, that's when time actually begins. So it's almost as if you have a bubble outside of a bubble. And it's a very interesting point that the shepherd's boy makes here, in that you should never waste. Nothing in the world is ever wasted. There's nothing in the world that is a bit of wasted time. Some people say, oh, doing this is a waste of time. Well, I think Shepherd Boy is basically trying to say that there's no such thing as wasted time. Time is something that is earned, and time is something that will earn in the future. And as for the first second of eternity being over after all that, then imagine how big eternity must be. I mean, it's immeasurable. Just like the stars, they were immeasurable too, and how many drops of water in the ocean. So in a way, everything's immeasurable, but it's measurable subjectively. Basically, everything is subjective. And I believe that's what Brothers Grimm was trying to describe when the story was written. And then, of course, the king says, "Thou hast answered the three questions like a wise man," and it's probably the best answers you could have given, because in society these days, a lot of people can't understand. They refuse to understand opinions because they value their opinions more than another person's opinions, and it's just sad how it works like that. But that is society these days, and frankly, everyone is allowed their own opinion, and everyone is allowed to keep their views and opinions close to their heart. And just in general, it's not just opinions, it's also emotions as well, where I feel like a lot of people's emotions are just not even paid attention to because of other things, that like the way that people feel these days. So I think the moral of the story of the shepherd boy is basically everything in life is subjective unless it's pure fact. And if just because you have a different opinion on something than someone else, doesn't mean that your opinion's wrong or that someone else's is wrong, and they're just different. And that's something that all of us have to work on in time, and hopefully maybe when everyone in the world's opinions are able to, everyone in the world is able to accept others' opinions, and when everyone is able to know that their own opinions are also valid, then maybe the first second of eternity for us will be over. So guys, thank you very much for watching my video today. So like I said, this is going to be a series, so I will be doing some more Brothers Grimm stuff upcoming for individual videos. If you want to find the Shepherd Boy, I printed a copy online, but I also have a copy at home. It was too big for me to bring with me today, but that you can get it at Barnes & Noble. It's like a custom cover and everything. I think it's about like $25 or $30. It's pretty cool. It's got every single Brothers Grimm story in it. Anyway, I'm not 100% sure yet which story I'm going to do next, but I will definitely be doing more, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. So, without any further ado, keep reading.